Good evening, everyone. This is Seth Moore coming to you again here on Anchor by Spotify. We are obviously back again, and we are going to share some topics with you. Today, we are going to continue with, we had left off on yesterday, and we were talking about the Ka spirit, the animal Ka, and how we raise our animal Ka to our higher Ka, and to have this intertwined for higher consciousness. Okay, and we also mentioned, during a couple of other podcasts, we were talking about the elements of the table of elements, as far as the 6 protons, the 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, and we're going to be talking about some of that this evening as well, and how that when we hear that acronym 666, we all, for the most part, relate to the mark of the beast. And I even talked about that in one of the podcasts and how it related to, I spoke about Bill Gates and some other stuff. And I also mentioned, I want to be clear again, that when you hear this, it's not always relating to something evil. But we'll get into it, and we'll have some clarity on that. But those are the table of elements that make up everything in the universe. And as I mentioned, we're electric people, we're electric entities, that 9 ether, and how that our carbon-based melanin entity, it controls everything in the universe, and it's comprised of everything in the universe. And so this is some of the things that we want to talk about. We also want to talk about, because this has everything to do with the alien appearances that we see, and how that NASA is hiding a lot of stuff. Because one thing we have to understand is that the powers that be never want the masses of people to know the truth. And so this is why they hide stuff. This is why they create all types of different things to deceive you. Okay? And a lot of times things are in plain sight. But if you don't understand the science, then you'll be manipulated and you'll be bamboozled for the most part. And so we want to share some of this stuff with you guys and try to give some clarity on some things. And we also want to unveil some things to you, okay? Because a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard, of the reptilians, the Greys, the Dracons, and all of these different alien types. Now, they've been talking about what they call the black extraterrestrials, who, for the most part, they look like black people, okay? And so this, and then of course they talk about the praying mantis type, and they talk about as well the I forget the term right off, but it's they call it the hybrid from the praying mantis, which is also a black alien. See, but this is what they're trying to actually hide. And as you already know, that everything that goes on that has to do with anything that's of a higher order, you know that race is always going to play a pivotal role in how the world sees it and how the world is going to receive it, how they want to receive it. And so I just want to say some things around that, because a lot of what you've been seeing, and then of course you have to also be spiritually discerning and connected. This is why I stress what I stress all the time, is because these people are so good at what they do. They will fool you if you are not connected spiritually. Okay, and so when they show you these, and when if you happen to be a science buff or a science fiction person or a person who is on higher consciousness, and you're following science and technology and so forth, a lot of this has to do with that. And also, excuse me, they're going to show you what they want you to see. So you'll see these aliens with these big giant heads with big eyes, and they'll make you think that's what aliens look like, or extraterrestrials look like, but they won't show you. Now, this man that did this video, he was being interviewed, but they won't show you aliens, extraterrestrials that look like black people. And I've said this many times before in podcasts. I was even ridiculed for it. Somebody told me I was losing my mind. Okay. But I came back and said to them, I said, how could you not believe in the science and the higher consciousness of, the exoteric electric magnetic entity of being, but you believe that Jesus is coming back? You believe that Jesus is going to come back flying through the sky, with horses and chariots, but you could believe that. I mean, look at the correlation. I said you could believe that, but you can't believe that your ancestors are galactic beings, are starship beings, that they are star people and always have been. And see, this is the technology they don't want you to know, but the world is going to find out, because they're coming back. They're not happy with the way that this planet is, because, of course, they're destroying the planet, and they're not happy with that. Okay, so we're going to read some things, and we're going to elucidate some more information, so this way we have some clarity on things. Okay, so let us begin. We're talking about 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, and this has everything to do with the table of elements that are comprised of making those elements that control and hold the universe together. And unbeknownst to a lot of us, black folks, we hold the universe together. Why? It's because we are comprised with all those elements that are in the universe and in the cosmos that create stars, galaxies, and so forth. Okay? So listen up. Some people are really very scared of this biblical passage because of the number 666. We all know why. However, this has another meaning altogether. It is referring to the subatomic particles that make up carbon: 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. Carbon's atomic number is 6, and it is the 6th most bountiful element in existence. Listen to this. All life on Earth is carbon-based. I've said this before. Saturn, the planet, is also the 6th planet from the sun. It is responsible for the construction of life in this world. Wow, that's a lot of sixes, isn't it? It is, therefore, an important number when it comes to the creation of man, humanity. and the number of man is 6. So the Bible, the Greek parts come, the Greek parts rather, some of which are also found in the Old Testament, contain hidden knowledge about the origin and nature of life. For more on this, okay, and then we'll read some of that. And see, this is excuse me, this is the secrets that they don't want you to know about you, about who you are. See, because now, and I've said, you guys heard me say this so many different times. It is the job. It is the job of the lower elements of this planet to keep you in a base, low vibrational state, to keep you in a base, low vibrational frequency so that you don't tap into your electric magnetic essence. Okay. So that you can do supernatural things. And this is what's going to begin to happen. You're going to be you're going to be seeing supernatural feats being done by those who are tapped in. And when I said before, when we were talking about on yesterday, in the podcast on yesterday about how that the ka is the food that you eat. It's spirit and it's life. So anything, being a live entity, being a live carbon-based molecular melanated entity in this cosmos, you are electric, a nine-ether being, meaning that everything that you take in has to be also electric, meaning that it has to have life to merge with life that's already existing. And that is you. That is you. So you can't eat dead stuff and expect to have life. That's just basic common sense. Okay? And so this is why they keep you in a lower vibrational base where you can't tap in. Your pineal gland is calcified, so you can't tap in spiritually to who you really are. And if they can keep you there, they got you. See, and because they know what you're made up of. We hold the cosmos together. Melanin, carbon-based entities, carbon-based neutron, proton, electron. We hold the universe together. Everything in this universe is comprised of dark matter, the dark particles. Okay, so listen up. And remember when we talked about the numbers? Okay, so let's listen to this. Pathogenesis, path, um, pathonos. Okay, so this is Greek. A form of asexual procreation where an egg develops into an embryo without being fertilized. We're going to kind of be jumping around a little bit because I want you to get something. Without being fertilized by a sperm. This is how reproduction occurs in some plant and animal species, insects, fish, reptiles, and human beings. This is also possible, but not likely to lead to a viable infant. Okay. This article, okay, it was not meant to be scientific getting into the possibility of pathogenesis. Okay. Okay, and it talks about, the religious birth of Jesus, and how that it's supposed to be about the religious virgin birth that brought Jesus Christ into existence, since the interpretation of the Bible is not literal. And I said this to you guys before. You have to understand the spiritual exoteric meaning of the revelation of things that you take. See, because you're taking stuff so literal, rather than taking it spiritually, and you thinking everything is comprised in a human form. Okay. then my understanding of the virgin birth won't be literal to me. The Bible contains occulted knowledge. That's why when people used to say occult, immediately unlearned people and people who have not done research thought occult means evil. Occult don't mean evil. Occult just means hidden. That's all it means. It's hidden. And you got to find out where the hidden eggs are, where the hidden nuggets are. That's why you do research. Okay. Contains occult knowledge about the nature of life. This knowledge is hidden. Did I just not say that? This knowledge is hidden in allegories and dramatria. What is hidden in this holy book is scientific knowledge. This post is and it's going to contain the knowledge specifically in relation to genetics. It will be simple. Okay. And so, like I said, we're going to be moving around and, so just bear with me. Okay. Now listen, it's going to mess some of y'all up because I know a lot of us see, we're so stuck in one way. A lot of us are not open-minded. A lot of us don't have an open spirit. That's why we can't get anything. Okay. A lot of us are so stuck on one thing. This is it. No, it ain't. Life don't work like that. It ain't just this is it. You know what I'm saying? There are many things in this cosmos that if you are not spiritual, if you're not doing the research, if you're not raising your kundalini, if you're not taking in the essence of life spiritually, you can't gather, you can't even fathom, you can't even comprehend. Why? Because you're so low base vibrationally, spiritually. And so when you become stripped of that spiritual essence of who you are, then it's shut off to you. And so this is why everything that we're comprised of, we have to become life again. Because we've been dead. We've been the valley of dry bones. What you think that's all about? We've been yes, we've been the valley of dry bones. If the virgin birth was even remotely possible, then Christ should have been a female. This is because women only carry the X female chromosome. They have two X, while males have an X and a Y. So without the input of sperm, listen, y'all, without the input of sperm, which would give Jesus the Y chromosome, thus making him male, he should have been a woman. Some will argue that God was his father and that God can do anything, like inserting a Y chromosome into the mix, but I don't buy that explanation. And you probably do. In the Greek letter X, the connection between the Greek letter X, Christ, and the Y and the X chromosome, the Greek name for Christ begins with the letter X. Okay? It's interesting that the first letter of the word for Christ is the exact same symbol for the female chromosome. The sound of this letter is the equivalent to the English H. The proper phonetic spelling of Christ in English should be Christos. And you would say, and then in some derivatives, it'll say Christos. Okay, Christ / Christos, Jesus, is a Greek word for light. Jesus Christ is a poetic name for the sun. In Greek, it translates into saving light. The light from the sun is necessary for life in this world. Now, I've said this before. Okay, so we're going to go back. We're going to go back, and I said we're going to be moving around, but we're going to keep this going because this is good stuff. Okay, so we'll come back to that one. So I want to get back to this. And I want to give a shout out. One of my brothers, he sent me something on Facebook today back home, Connecticut. I appreciate that, J Hop. And so obviously, he's been listening. And I thank you for, he sent me some stuff on the alien stuff, which I'm aware of. And it's good stuff. And it's good stuff. So keep on listening, brother. And, I'll certainly delve into some of the stuff that you sent. So we're going to keep this moving. Okay, so it talks about the letters and numbers. So it talks about the Bible, the Greek parts of which I've already read. Some parts which are also found in the Old Testament contain hidden knowledge about the origins and nature of life. For more of this, okay? And so then the original Bible written in Greek. Now the original, see, this is why when you study, the original Bible was not written in Greek. See, so this is why I'm always stressing about research, because the original Bible was not written in Greek. And as we all know, the original Bible was written in Aramaic and Hebrew and you can even go back to some Babylonian texts. Okay, but no, it's because they borrowed from the Kemites. So it would say then, if the Bible was written originally in Greek, it would mean that the Greeks wrote it, wouldn't it? Which we know is a lie. So this is why you have to pay attention to certain things that are written, so that you can decipher and the difference. And that really separates someone who's doing the research as opposed to, and this is why I'm saying to you, so that you won't regurgitate, without doing the research, something like this being said. Because some people feel they'll run with that. Say, oh yeah, the Bible was originally written in Greek. No, it wasn't. Okay, so here we go. Only contained letters. They were the first numbers since there was not a separate set of symbols for them in antiquity. And so because when the Hebrew scripts were being written, they didn't add vowel sound and so forth. And they put what they call dots by certain letters to let you know the original was written in so it couldn't be changed, which they talk about and call it transliteration. Okay. So they put points by it. Okay. And as I just said, they were numbers since there was not a separate set of symbols for them in antiquity. In fact, there was no need to create a separate set of symbols for numbers. However, those who learned this knowledge from the Greeks, and see, they have the Greeks. Now listen to this. This is why it's important. They have Greeks / Egyptians and then Phoenicians / Jews. So in other words, they put the Greeks before the Kemites. So this is where that's not correct. Okay? So anyways, specifically gematria, which is geometry and language, the language of creation wanted to keep it for themselves. The move away from an entire alphabet as a numerical system began with the Roman / Latin Roman equals crypto-Jewish numerals. This system was still based on letters derived from the Greek alphabet, but it only contained, a limited amount. 7 of these letters. Eventually, different symbols were created which reinforce the notion that the letters and numbers are two separate entities, a very effective way to hide this knowledge from the common people. Now, you may be thinking, oh, okay, so you're telling us this wasn't correct. So how would we know what you're reading to us is correct? This is where, like I said, this is where you have to become studious. You have to be a researcher. And if you have been a researcher over time, you know, having compared ancient literature and other documents and oral traditions to your ancestors, that you'll be easily able to decipher that this is not correct. Because anytime you try to put the Greeks before the Kemites, you know that's not correct. Because it was the Greeks that learned from the Kemites. And that's pretty elementary. That's parochial, you know? So, okay. So this also, too, I want to mention. Also, I want to mention the powers that be. It is in their best interest to keep the world in a subjugated frame of existing, because they don't want peace on the earth. They don't want a cohesiveness amongst people. They don't want that. That's not their aim. Their aim is to control. Their aim is to create havoc. Their aim is to rid the planet of 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 uh, of anything that looks like peace, or anything that looks like the indigenous person getting his rightful place back on the planet. They're afraid to death of that because they know it's coming. They know it's coming. And why have we survived up until this time? Why have black people survived up until this time? They're trying to kill us off. They're trying to get rid of us. Why have they not been able to get rid of us? They have not been able to get rid of us because we are the universe. You can't get rid of what creates the universe, everything that comprises the universe. We are beyond a born date. Understand that. Understand that. Understand that we are those table of elements that hold the planet together. This is why they haven't been able to get rid of us. You can't kill the universe with a gun. You cannot get rid of the universe. You cannot get rid of energy with a gun. You can't get rid of energy with a missile. You may be able to contaminate the atmosphere, but, and in the process of doing that, you're destroying yourself as well. So this is why, over time, they're saying, like, why are black people still here? All they've been through. Because we are the planet. We are the universe. We inhabit the whole cosmos. We are the reason for you breathing. Dark matter is the reason for you breathing and existing with the creative source from the creator, who we are likened to. We are intertwined in the elements of the essence of the creative source. That's why you can't get rid of us. You can't kill this energy with a gun, like I said, or with a bomb. And you may be able to destroy what's on the outside, but that nine-ether entity being, the energy, will continue to exist. Will continue to exist because it has been for billions of what you call years. Okay, let's move on. And so again, when I had mentioned about Norman Bergman earlier, when he had this interview with this lady, and he's a scientist, a world-renowned scientist, worked for NASA and the National Aeronautics Systems and so forth. And when they were in orbit, and Bug Holman, I believe his name is, and also Neil Armstrong, when they did, I think it was Apollo 13, when they were in space, in orbit, this is what NASA's been hiding. They encountered what they call then UFOs, okay, and in these UFOs, they seen black extraterrestrial entities, black men, for the lack of a better word, or black entities. And in this interview, Norman Bergman confessed, and this man was, you could tell he was upset. He was like, he was distraught. He was distraught in his interview. And so the young lady was asking him what he had witnessed during this voyage. And he was putting his hand up to his face and putting his head down. And some people would say, oh, he's lying. He looks like he's, no, this man was upset. This man know what he saw. He said he's seen black men getting off of ships. And she asked him, she said, were they like us? So in other words, what the lady was saying is, were they like us as in white people? No, baby girl, they weren't white people. See, because you don't have what's comprised to be able to be in those elements, okay? You would disintegrate. You're not carbon based, melanin based. You're not, okay? We're gonna do another podcast on that. Can they survive in the elements? This is why you have to use apparatuses to go into orbit, because those elements are way, way too strong. And they did a study on this in NASA as well. So I'm not just throwing out words. They did a study in NASA as well. They said when black folks go up into orbit, their bones get more dense. And they said that other non-black people had problems in orbit. These were studies that were done. They had problems with the joints hurting very bad. They had to give them shots and all kinds of stuff. But they said the higher up the altitude, when blacks would go into orbit, their bones will become more dense, more stronger. That's because carbon, melanin base, that 9-ether. Okay, so this is what he said. He said that they seen black men getting off ships. So she proceeded to ask him, how tall were they? How tall were they? And he went on to say, well, without the door on the ships, he said they were at least 7 feet or taller. And again, he was distraught. And she said, he said they were black. He said they were really black, like the dark of night. That's that black dot. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so where are we? Let's see. And what we're going to probably do, we're going to continue with another segment, because again, this is a lot. So it talks about here the knowledge that was actually being learned. And as I said before, they put the Greeks, the Egyptians, or the Chimerians, and the Phoenicians. And they talked about geometry and language. The language of creation wanted to keep it for themselves. And this is what I'm saying. They want to keep this hidden knowledge for themselves, away from you, who rightfully are that entity. Okay. They want to keep it and hide it from the common people. So yeah, so it talks about, I'm not going off on a tangent, and that's something I'm not going to do, because we're going to keep it professional. We're going to keep it relevant, as I always say, and trying to keep this together, and give you the information. It talks about, the more I look into the Bible's true origin, the greater my rage grew, because I could see how they who have ruled in the shadows for centuries had stolen from my ancestors. This is so true. And I'm telling you guys this. I have probably also been carrying their rage. If you have followed for a while, you would know that I have unleashed my righteous indignation against them. The good news is that with each revelatory post that's published, my anger dissipates just as slowly loosening the valve of a pressure cooker releases steam. As the fog clears, my great rises to the surface. This sadness is released to the stupendous suffering foisted upon humanity by those who abuse the power that comes with this knowledge. So true. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to read a little bit more. We're going to pause and we're going to come back. Okay, and again, when I said before, a lot of times I don't become distraught because even when you're talking about Greece, you're still talking about black people because all of these places were inhabited and established by Africans. Okay, so at what point did Greece become a predominantly white society? Did they become a white society mostly under Alexander the Great or, Macedonia and other people? So, of course, you find that out through following the research and so forth. So here we go again. As the fog clears, my grief rises to the surface. Okay, it talks about the powers that be have abused the knowledge that you are supposed to actually have. Okay. The healing influence of the written word never ceases to amaze me, lest I forget the healing power of the truth to set myself and my ancestors and future generations around the world free. For centuries, they have attempted to destroy Greece in order to bury the true origin of this knowledge. The periods in history where most of this destruction happened were during the reign of the Byzantine Eastern Roman Empire, which is true, and the Ottoman, the Turkish Empire, both Jewish fonts, and you start talking about the popes and all that, how they gave edicts to put blacks in slavery and edicts if you're not a Christian and if you're not following the state religion, they would have you persecuted and burnt at the stake and killed. So this is why I say ain't nothing good happen under Christianity. So for y'all who really do the research, you'll know you're actually serving Catholicism in the way it's formulated, in the way that they have it structured. You might, have programs that are different in your churches, but you're still under Catholicism. That's what you're under. So what we're going to do, we're going to stop for a moment and we are going to come back. Okay, so we're going to pause and then we're going to come back. So you guys stay with us. We will be back shortly. Stay right with us. Seth Morgan coming to you here in Anchor by Spotify at 6:51 in the evening, and it is a rainy evening out today. Don't know whether or not it's raining where you are, but it is a day to grab a book, do some studying, and just listen. And so listen to your spirit. So we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us, okay?